Welcome to the Leader Talks podcast. I'm Reverend Dr. Shannon Karafanda. I am an ordained clergy person in the United Methodist Church.
Hi, I'm Elaine Robinson Beattie, speaker, trainer, executive coach.
We've put together this podcast by women for women about things we wish we had known when we were younger.
And we do hope that you will look for our podcast on your favorite platform.
Be sure to subscribe, to like, and to share. We want to thank you for joining us today.
So Shannon, you ready to get started?
Let's do it. Hey friends, welcome back to Leader Talks podcast. This is Elaine. This is season 2. I can't believe it's taken us this long to get back together, but I'm so excited.
We're busy women. We
really are. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that actually leads into what we're going to be talking about today. This first episode of season 2, we're going to be talking about boundaries, how to have good self-care, how to do some time management, all of the things we probably heard it when we were younger, but it just didn't sink in. So we're going to give you some tools and some tricks that we have learned over the years, and hopefully you'll be able to save that. And when you do get to that point where you're like, wait, what was that thing about boundaries? Right. You can go back to this and you can say, oh, that's what I need to be doing. The reason why I think boundaries are so important is because there are so many times when we get excited about something, and maybe this is just my personality type, but I get excited about something and I want to go all in. So I spend a lot of time and energy, and all of a sudden I realize that I'm neglecting the other things in my life that I want to be there for the long haul, and that this new project is just a project. It's going to be over at a certain point, and that can cause other issues with the people or the things that I'm neglecting, or it can cause burnout in this new thing that's exciting. Is that something that you've come across, Elaine?
Oh, absolutely. You could probably call me the queen, but I'm recovering. And
in recovery.
It's a process. But the queen of burnout. Yeah, I'm one of these women who believed in working hard and playing hard, right? So
Yes.
I had to learn that lesson.
Well, that's what I was taught. When I first got out of school, I was a consultant for Pricewaterhouse, which dates me because it's now PricewaterhouseCoopers. But we got a book that was basically work hard, play hard. And it talked about, how coffee and donuts is an okay breakfast. Like, yeah. I remember that book saying, and I was like, they want me to hustle. They want me to be rushed. They probably have changed their tune at this point, realizing that they want people to be in things for the long haul. But I just remember that was kind of a shocker for me. And I was like, okay, this is my kind of place. Let's do it. Let's go all in.
And it's very American. It is a very American value. It is,
and I will say it also, a lot of that comes from the Protestant work ethic of the Christians, the white Christians who came to America. Part of their spiritual disciplines were, a lot of them were Methodists. There was the method. You did the method. You did it as often as you could because that's how you connected with God. And so this pattern of having a method of doing things on a regular basis, it bleeds over into other parts of our life. And so this hustle that we have has affected, I think, actually started from our spiritual practices and our faith, and then kind of bled over into the culture, making it a hustle culture, but also a very capitalist culture as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, we are here to dispel the myths that we must go all in, leave it all on the floor, and then, just go home exhausted with our tongues hanging out. We are saying no more.
Right. Because we're in a marathon, we're not in a sprint. And I think there are certain parts of our life where it's appropriate to sprint. You've got this deadline at the end of the weekend. Well, of course, you're going to sprint to the end of the weekend, but you're not going to continuously sprint and go from one thing to the next because you'll just wear yourself out. The thing about boundaries that was eye-opening to me, because I knew we needed to have them. I knew they were important, but I didn't realize how not having them, how much that would hurt other people and not just me. So, I hear about burnout and I'm like, yeah, but that's a me problem. But it's not when you're a wife and a mother and when you're a senior pastor leading people in a church. My burnout affects everyone. And it is important for me to not have boundaries is for me to actually, I hate to use this word, fail at doing what I'm called to do.
Well, yeah, but like John Maxwell says, we fail forward, right?
Fell
So
forward, yes.
we learn, as we fail, because the one thing we don't want to do is stop doing or stop learning as we do things, right? So that's important. But Shannon, I wanted to ask you, what was your first sign? Like, how did you even know, like, you were, over the top? And I'll say
Mm.
overworking, because I think that's part of what brings us to the burnout.
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna get personal. The first time I was working with a colleague. We were starting a new church, and it was fun because it's all new and we're going all in, and it's exciting. And I don't think my boundaries at during that period of time were off. I think I had family time. I think I had work time, and it was fine. But 1 week before our first public worship service, we'd had preview services, but this was like the big opening, the big launch.
Right,
one
right,
week
right, right.
before he passed away. He had a heart attack.
Wow.
And I remember going through shock, and I remember gathering all the people together, and I said, we still have a church to start. Well, at first I was like, okay, it's all over, we're done. And then I was going through not only grief for my friend, but grief for this idea that he had and that we had together and that all of these people were looking at. And someone said, don't call that one off yet. Let's see where this goes. God might still be using us. So I said, okay. So we got all of the congregation people together. And I remember those big sticky notes, putting them all over the wall. And all right, we
Mm-hmm.
need some hospitality. We need some setup. We need to make sure that we're doing the invitation right. We need X, Y, and Z to happen. So I had because I'm a good strategist, so I'm mapping it out all over. And we kind of went in full on strategy mode because this was important. It was part of our grieving process to kind of
Yes.
move forward with this. And I remember about 3 months in, we were thinking we might be getting a new pastor because that's how Methodism worked. And someone asked me to consider possibly moving into that senior role. And I remember thinking, I would love to be able to do that for Alan, not for God, not for me, for Alan. And I also remember thinking, my body was like exhausted. Intestinal things were going on. And I remember thinking, well, maybe if I could get medicated, if I could have maybe an antidepressant, I could move through.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, that's not a reason to go on an antidepressant. You don't go on an antidepressant so you can do more.
No, no.
And so I took a step back, and I'd been going to a therapist during this time to grieve and to have that time. And I went to her and I said, I need to slow down. She said, yeah, you do. And I think I need to go on an antidepressant, but not so I can do more, but so I can like sit with these feelings and grieve. And I did. And I realized I had hit that point then. And then several years later, when I was ordained as a deacon, I was working two churches as an associate and traveling a long way to both and loving it because I was all in. And everyone's like, you're crazy. What are you doing? You're doing too much. And I'm like, no, I'm not. It's fun. I love it. I love it. I love it. And then my body shut down. And I had an intestinal blockage and had to go in for surgery and had part of my small intestine removed. And it took 6 weeks to recover. And I have realized that when I'm about to hit burnout, or maybe I've like tipped over, my body will tell me. So
Yeah.
I don't have to wonder anymore. My body will tell me. I just have to try to be mindful on the front end to not get to that point.
Can I share some signs of burnout?
Please do.
Yeah, because you hit one of them, and that is, it's real. Our body talks to us. And like you, I hit burnout and, just ignored the signs. But one of the signs is frequent headaches and gastro disturbances,
Mhm.
right? Another is sleeplessness and depression, suspiciousness, weight loss or gain, shortness of breath, feeling of helplessness. We can look at anger at those who are making demands, chronic fatigue, self-criticism for putting up with demands, a sense of being inundated, exploding easily at seemingly inconsequential things. Shannon, when I saw this list, I had 10 of the 12.
Wow.
Yeah, scary.
Yeah. It's scary. It's a matter of life or death.
It
To
is.
to not have boundaries is hurting you physically. So do you have any ways that you like to cope with keeping boundaries in place?
Well, yes, I do. And I've been working on this for a very long time. My first, if you would, emphasis in coaching was actually extreme self-care. And
Mm.
yeah, it's because I had to work on me before I started working, other people or working with other people. And so the one thing I realized, and I got this, we talk out of our lived experiences, right? So a girlfriend of mine said to me, Elaine, you look like hell. Isn't that great? Don't you just need a girlfriend to tell you something?
You do need friends that will tell you that. It's better coming from a friend than from an enemy.
Oh, it absolutely is. And she says, we need to go to a spa. We need to go to a spa. The point is that I went to this spa and I actually stopped and rested and rested and rested. I also hiked and I ate well and I did all these things. But the key was to stopping and resting. There are several benefits to resting. And again, resting is one of those things here in America that people kind of poo-poo, like it's something, that we shouldn't be doing. And we know
Yeah.
biblically it's
Yeah.
key.
God rested. So why should we not?
Yeah.
I I've never had a problem with sleep. In fact, I always thought my problem was I slept too much. I am a 8 to 9 hour a night.
My
Now, I
goodness.
don't always get that, but I can on a regular basis get that if I want to. That's hard. It's hard at times with all the things that have to go on, but I can get a good night's sleep. And so I've treasured that because I have friends that cannot get a good night's sleep. So I've tried to keep all of that. I'm very mindful of that. But the other thing you talked about, going away and stopping and resting, I try to do things where I cannot have my phone,
That's
li-
right.
like go to a spa or go for a run. If I
Mhm.
go for a walk, I can have my phone and I can walk and be on my phone. It's not smart to do. I have run into things doing that, but you can do it. Running, you can't. I don't necessarily like running, but I like the benefits of running. So I will make sure that I go do that. And I also sometimes there is a float place near my house where you pay and you get into this like sensory deprivation pod where
Oh, yeah.
there's salt water where you can't, there's
Right.
absolutely no way that you cannot float. So you get in, it's dark, you can have music or not have music, but you're just like enveloped into this. And I'm like, that's my time. I've got a
Yeah.
full hour where I don't have my phone. And it's one of those times where my mind will race. And I really practice mindfulness because it'll race somewhere. And I'm like, no, I'm not here to solve anything. I am here to be one with God in this moment. That's
Yeah.
it.
Absolutely.
And that for me has been very, very helpful. Find ways to purposefully not have my phone because I can put limits on it all day and break those limits. But if I leave it, I went somewhere the other day and I left my phone at home and I was like, I'm going to stay out an extra like 20, 30 minutes because I know it'll be a self-imposed break.
Absolutely. There's a book, and I'll come up with the name of it in a moment, but it's written by Dr. Sandra Dalton, and it's called Sacred. I'm forgetting the name. I'll come back to that. But anyway, it talks about the benefits of rest. And I wanted to
Mm.
just remind everybody, as you were talking about 8 or 9 hours, that sounded so yummy. But the benefits of rest are clear thinking, right?
Hmm.
We come back with a clear perspective. Our hope is restored. Our creativity is renewed. I don't know about you, but I have an increased sense of patience when I'm
Hmm.
rested. My endurance is increased, right? The intensity of the situation is lowered. These are the benefits of rest.
Yeah, very, very important. So I know people are thinking, okay, yeah, I rest, but I still got to get it all done.
Yes.
Here is the thing that has helped me, and I'm not great at putting it into practice, but when I do see the benefits of it, and that's time chunking. I am going to work on this one thing for 20 minutes, and then I'm going to stand up and walk away. I have found that when I do that, I am able to put it all in for those 20 minutes. I get up and walk away. And sometimes, if I'm in a spot where I've gotten stuck, the act of walking away and coming back allows me to like have a clearer mind and clearer thinking. And then all of a sudden, it's resolved, it's solved. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this was it. And I spend 20 more minutes and tie that up, take another break and work on something else. It doesn't always work, especially in a church world where if I'm in the office, people are like want to stop by and they want to talk. And in that moment, I have to put away the sermon or the email I'm working on and focus on the person. I also can't time chunk with people because if they're in the middle of something, I'm not like, okay, we need to take a break. It's been 20 minutes of you crying about something that's really important to you. That's really horrible pastoral care. But I do think that you can put limits on the time that you spend with that. So if you've got someone who's going through something and you're being that listening ear, I do think you can get to about 45 minutes an hour and say, hey, we've been there about 45 minutes an hour. This is awful here for you. We're not going to resolve this today. What's the one thing that for me, I would say, what's the one thing that you're praying for? Someone else might say, what's the one thing I can do to support you? And that kind of helps you to wrap it up so that you're not sitting there thinking, oh my word, all of the things I have to do. You can be present in that moment and focus on that person, which is really what we want. But sometimes our brain just starts to churn toward that to-do list.
Absolutely. And you remind me, a couple weekends ago, I spent the whole Sunday afternoon. It was just so delicious, spending the time reading a book called The One Thing.
Oh, yes, you shared that book with me. I'm very excited to dig into it.
Oh my God, it is so good. And it basically, you call it time chunking. They were talking about time blocking, and you were talking about 20 minutes or an hour. And I agree. That's how I live my life. I'm a blocking time. But they expanded it to 4 hours. And they said, take the one thing. What is the one thing that would make the most difference in your ministry, in your business, at your work, in your family, whatever it is, the one thing, and dedicate the best part of your day when you have the most energy to that one thing.
Ooh, that's good stuff. Do you set an intention for the day?
An intention, meaning like, what am I going to get done as far as productivity, or just like
I would
what
say
I want to happen for that day?
I will often think about for me, it's better to do this at night. Instead of first thing in the morning. First thing in the morning, my brain's taking a little while to wake up. And so if I've already set the intention the night before, I just start to go with it. Yesterday was my daughter's birthday. I had a million things to do, but my intention for the day was to celebrate her.
Nice.
So anytime something crept up, it didn't mean I ignored it. It just meant that I would spend a little less time than I would, or I would make sure I would block the time for tomorrow to make that happen. Today, I'm about to go to a conference tomorrow and I'm going to be gone for a few days. And so today my intention was to prepare for the sermon that has to get written for Sunday, to prepare for packing my suitcase, to prepare for making sure I've tied up all the loose ends with family, those kind of things. So I guess it's more of like a guiding word or the intention. That's the thing that I have recently discovered. It also helps me be more mindful.
Yeah. Hear you say is focus. And for me, yes, I do try to, but I like that. I like that you shared it in a way of intention. But yes, I need a focus for the day for sure.
When I was getting my doctorate, our advisor said, you have a job and you have family and you have to write a dissertation. You do not have time for anything else for the next year and a half. So schedule your time. And she basically did the one thing. She's like, schedule your time so that the best time for you to write is where you block off that time every day. So you do a little bit of writing every day. And the best time for you to do research or to read would be at whatever else time of day. And you block a little bit of that time off. And, you do things with your family and you do things you obviously have a job to do. You've got to work at your church or whatever ministry setting people were working in, but you don't have time to be the PTA president, and you don't have time to be the team mom for baseball this season. A year and a half from now, you do. And so just being mindful of those times when, okay, I know I need to be all in. So how do I balance the things that are still going to be there when the dissertation is finished? I had someone that I was in a church and she looked at me one day and she goes, how's your marriage? And I was like, oh no, what have you heard? What? I don't know. I think it's good. And she was like the person that says, you don't look good. She hadn't heard anything or wasn't observing anything. She just was very mindful and said, your kids are getting older. They're about to start leaving the house. Soon it'll be just the two of you. Are you ready for that again? Or is that going to be a struggle? And you just need to make sure you're spending the time together so that when they're gone, you're ready for that. And I went, she's right. And I knew that, but to hear someone just very directly say that was a gift.
Wow, wow, wow. You know, Shannon, you mentioned the word balance, and I very rarely use that word. I like to think that our lives are rhythmic. You know, you have a rhythm to your week, right? Church is Sunday, it starts, you have a way of how you go about it. My husband does too. In leadership, I think it's so important that we understand the rhythms of the year, of the months, of the weeks, right? And that we make allowances for that. And I think that's what you're saying, right? So there's, kids grow up, they leave.
Yeah.
Right? We have budgets, we have parties, we have celebrations. I mean, all those things are just part
Yeah.
of our
You
lives.
should not be surprised that there will be parties and things that you have to buy in December. You should not. Christmas is happening every year for a long, long time, hopefully.
Christmas girl, I do have to tell you all that. Okay, she is the Christmas girl.
Yeah, so you should not be surprised. You clear all of the other stuff off and you enjoy the celebrations and you realize in June and July that it's the same scripture every so often in December. And so you can work on it now. And those are important ones because there's a lot of people who are wanting to celebrate the season and they'll be in church. So
Absolutely.
work on it now so you can enjoy the season. And also take that week off after Christmas because your family needs you. And you
Yeah,
need to be ready to start the next year as well.
you brought up something else, and I think again, for those of us who are in leadership and have been doing this for a while, I want to share with certainly those that are coming up through the ranks. Most of us carry multiple roles, right? You already said that. You're a pastor, you're a wife, you're a mom, you're a daughter, you're a friend, right? We have all these roles. What has been your, I guess, revelation around how do you manage all those and still be you, right? And still be you.
I would say the first thing that comes to mind is forgiving myself. I'm
Good.
an only child. My parents are divorced and they're in their 80s, which means my time is split with them and I can't be there all the time. And I have to forgive myself that I just can't. Kids and a job, and I can't as much as I want to. That does not make me a bad daughter. No, I'm even saying it right now, but not necessarily believing it. But that's okay. I'm trying to live into that. And I can't be the perfect of each of those all the time.
No.
Which is why an intention I think is important. Focusing on one of those at a time and making sure that that is balanced in whatever way that makes sense for me. There are certain times when one of the kids needs me more than the other, and being mindful of that and not putting an expectation on the outcome of the interaction, that sometimes we just need to be together. I don't need to be with them to impart wisdom or to tell them they need to do X, Y, and Z. That's because I have older kids. When they were younger, there were times I was like, okay, they need to learn how to tie their shoes because I'm really tired of tying their shoes. So the interaction was about the thing, but now it's not. It's just about us, which is nice.
Right. So here's my question. I guess along the way, you somehow or another figured out you couldn't do all this by yourself. And the one thing that I love about being a Christian, but also what I'm learning about being an entrepreneur, and certainly it just part of leadership, right? Any good leader knows how to utilize their team or should learn how to utilize their team. And for us, right, it's about community. So, how have you learned to utilize your community and delegate some of the duties that you have so that you're not like exhausted and
So, two things. One is, my doctorate research was in growth mindset and realizing that community, every person in the community has something they can teach me and they make me better. They hold me accountable. And they support me when I succeed and they support me when I fail, which is a beautiful and wonderful thing. So, realizing the importance of that how important community is and connection, and how that also helps us in a holistic and healthy way and helps our blood pressure, all of our dopamine, serotonin, all of that goes up when we're part of a community and something that's greater. As far as delegating, still working on it. But one tool that I've used a little bit, and I don't think it always fits, but it does help at least try to sort through when you've got too much on your plate, is the Eisenhower matrix. I don't know if
Yep.
yeah. I love the Eisenhower matrix because it's like, what is urgent but important? Well, I need to do that. I can't put everything in that box. So what are the 3 things I'm going to put in that box at least today? And what is urgent but not important? That could be delegated to somebody. If it's not really important to me, but it is kind of urgent, like the IT in the office is out. I can always go home and use the IT at home, but the teachers at the school can't. So I need to delegate that to somebody. And then what is not urgent but important? So maybe I got to buy a birthday present for someone next week. It's important. I need to do that, but it's not urgent. I've got a week. I just need to find a time to put that in. And then so I schedule that. I make sure that's scheduled. And then I kind of don't really think about it. And then if it's not urgent and it's not important, you can cross it off your list and say no.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you were alluding to this before, and I was thinking about that. Oftentimes, as women, someone will ask us to do something and we say yes, right? But we don't even consider or ask them what we should take off our plate. Like when your boss comes to you and says, Elaine, can you do this? I would love to, but this is what I have. So which one of these can I take off my plate for later, or can we give it to somebody else? So that would be a strategy that I would offer to people.
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy. I think it's for the right boss that shows them that you have a good understanding of time management, you have a good understanding of boundaries. Now, for the wrong boss, you might feel like you have something to prove, and so you have to take everything on. And I would just say that's the wrong boss. There was a time when women had to say yes to everything in order to get ahead, and we realized that that didn't get us ahead, it just burned us out. So being able to have those boundaries, I've noticed younger women are much better at either saying no, or saying, what else do you want me to get rid of, or say no to, or I haven't had a raise in 2 years. I'm not compensated well enough for you to add more to my plate, and I'm sorry. They probably say it nicer than that, but you know what I'm saying. They're a little bit more direct, and which I think is a glorious thing. And to be able to hold that in keeping with boundaries is wonderful.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And I guess the point I'm making here is that, it is important for us to remain, and you and I talked about this when we started this whole conversation around leadership talks, right? Like, why did we want to do this? And it's so that we maintain or find our voice, right? And lean into our identity, and we hold on to it with everything that we have. And so that means when we can, and it takes courage, right? I have a girlfriend who talks about, the confidence, right? The courage of confidence. And it's important for us to speak up and to say what we need to say. And that begins with saying, I'm happy to, I will, or, right? That is
No,
a complete sentence.
it is. It is. You can say no and stop. You don't have to say no, but, or no, you don't have to make an excuse. No is fine.
Yeah. What I
So,
absolutely love and what I acknowledge is that we all come from these different generations. I'm a baby boomer. I know you're a little younger than I am. And thank God we're getting, to the point where well-being really is coming up on the scale. And that's really what we're talking about here.
yeah. Yeah. Well, this has been a great conversation. I think that our next one, we can talk a little bit more about community and networking and key alliances that we have. I look forward to that conversation, Elaine.
Same here. And thanks, Shannon. I appreciate you sharing your strategies and your story. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.